Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Cryption and I hope you are well. In the last tutorial in this very mini series, we basically set up these Fable-style Demon Doors, where you could walk up, you can't do anything with them, but once you activate them somehow, which we're going to get onto today, you could successfully tell it to open, and it would open successfully. And we also had to close because it was dead easy to do while we were there, like so. There we go. So in today's tutorial, we're going to actually look at making it interactable in the quest line that it wants us to do. So it may want us to bring someone here, may want us to answer some questions, whatever. But we're going to look at doing that today. I am going to be using the Narrative Tales Quest and Dialogue plugin for the majority of this, because it's just going to be so much easier. However, I will try to explain, as and when we get there, how you could alternatively do this if you have your own quest system or you are using blueprints alone. Then we can try and guide you from there. So let's get started. So we've got a ton of different things we could set up to do these demon doors. There's all sorts, from spawning enemies in, to slaying them, to bringing a lantern, whatever you want to do for your game. And that is entirely going to be completely up to you what you want to do. However, in mine I've got two preset examples. One, which is going to be like a quiz kind of thing, where you have to answer the correct things for the riddles, or the knowledge in order to succeed, which will be one area of it. And then the other one is going to be an action-based one, where you have to do something, and then that triggers it to unlock, if you wish. So we'll start off with the action one, because that's going to be the most common one people are going to do. So all I'm going to do is make it so you have to start this somehow for him to tell you what to do, and then from there, then it says to do something, and I'm just going to say you have to go to a location over here. That's it, really. In the lore of the game, you have to jump off a cliff, and then he's like, you must sacrifice yourself, that really you're just jumping into a river. So I've already set some voices up for all of this, because obviously it's going to sound better with that godly voice. So if I come to my sounds folder, and in my voices, I have my Pantheon gates, and I've got a bunch of different ones here. So you can see I've added this voice.
By the gods, for only the worthy to enter.
And it goes off like that. And it's really easy to set something up that easy to do, and I don't just have an amazing voice like that, you see. So what I've done is I've actually kept my process so I can show you how to do it. So this is the original. The gates were set up by the gods. So I did a little bit of a grunty, the Pantheon gates, something there to help it along, because it's not magic. And then the only process I did, which was thanks to this random Reddit post I found here, it was really this one, a bunch of reverb and boosting the bass. I don't know what EQ is, I'm not an audio engineer, so I'm ignoring that. But that's what I did, and all you're going to do is come in, you're going to add a reverb, and that'll turn it from the normal voice to a bit of... The Pantheon gates were set up. It's a bit echoey. And then they said add a bunch, so I added 2, and that made it really echoey, and it's like, you're on top of a temple now kind of thing. And then I went and added a bass to it of 10 and 10 on both, because that's what I figured would work for me. The Pantheon gates. And it makes it hit more on the bass level. Pantheon. And then just to really sell it, I just altered my pitch by 21. And I've noted these down here, as you can see.
The Pantheon gates were settled by...
And that's where I've got the demonic godlike voice from. So yeah, so I basically did all of them, and I've set it into a way where it's the question or the thing they want, so when you first interact with it, and then I've done the result of it afterwards. So some of them will just have an instant result. You either go up and it keeps telling it you, or you've done it. And that's what I've done here for the result, where he tells you you've done, and then it tells you the door's open. For the dialogue version, where you have to answer the correct ones, I've done it in several parts. So I've got the question, 1, 2, 3 questions, and then whether you've failed or passed it or not. And that's what I've basically built up. So let's crack on with adding the task-based one. The sacrifice, I guess, in my case. So first thing we need to be able to walk up and interact with the door, and then tell you what you need to do. So I'm going to come and open up our BPP Pantheon gate, or whatever blueprint you've got here. And I'm actually going to come and disable all the collisions on all of this, because it's going to be a lot of collision we don't need. So I'm going to set all that to no collision, no events or anything like that. And then I'm simply going to come and add a box collision that's going to surround it all. with a block all. So I'll extend this out a bit, like so. Drag it out so it covers the guards a little bit, like that. So you can interact with any of that, really. And then we'll extend it up. It doesn't need to be huge. So now you are going to need an interaction system to do this. If you haven't got one already, I have a tutorial on my channel that shows you how to add a basic one, just using a line trace, but any interaction can work. In my case, I'm going to use the narrative interaction because that's what interaction system I've got built into this project. So the narrative interaction requires this to have the visibility trace set to block, so it can actually trigger it, and that's what we need there. So step 1 would be allowing them to interact with this and playing the initial thing they have to do. So depending on your interaction system you've got, add some code in to tell it to play the interaction audio, the initial audio you want. For me, because I'm using the narrative interaction, I can just add the begin dialogue interact to it, and then I can come and set up some interaction for this specific door. So if I come to my narrative folder, inside dialogues, I will add a new one called Pantheon Gates, and inside here I will add a new narrative dialogue, db underscore Pantheon Gate 01, and this will be Pantheon Gate 01. So I'll open it up, and I will just call this Pantheon Gate, so that'll be the speaker ID of it. I don't want any camera or anything. I want the player to still be able to move around. That's all good. And then all I'm going to do is add a node over here. So just for the Pantheon Gate of the starting text, which will be this nicely copied and pasted one over here. The Pantheon Gates were set up by the gods only for the worthy to enter. Prove your worth by believing in your god. Sacrifice yourself by jumping from this cliff. So I've also got the audio for that I can add in. And then what I am going to do is also add the result over here as a separate node, which I can add like so. And there it is. There's our two nodes like that. And then to play this, all I'm going to do is come back to my begin dialogue and tell it to play the Pantheon Gate 01 like so. So if I try it now, in theory I should be able to interact with it. So you can see interactable object, and it will play. So as you can see, it is working already. I am going to come and change the text of it so it says, you know, listen to gate or touch gate or whatever. So we'll just say Pantheon Gate, and we'll just do listen. Listen to Pantheon Gate. There we go. So it looks a little bit nicer. We can listen to the Pantheon Gate now. Cool. But then how do we action the task part? And this is something I said in the first part of the video, where I'm going to use my quest system because it just makes sense. If you think about what a quest is, it's go here, do this, go here, do this, mission complete. Even basically, that's what it is. And this is what we need. We come here, it gives us an invisible quest as a riddle, and tells us to do something. In this case, go over here, it completes it, we go back to here and it says, ha ha, you've done it, kind of thing. It's super simple. If you don't have a quest system at all, firstly, I'd reevaluate if you actually need a quest system. They are super helpful. Expensive, but really helpful. They change your game. Secondly, the way you can do this with blueprints is by toggling a bunch of stuff in here. So, for example, you could have a integer down here which says get quest, get current state of quest or something like that. Or on your interaction, however you started the interaction, at the end of it, you could have it say, have a tick event or spawn a blueprint over here that overlaps for when the player hits it. Something like that. It entirely depends on what you're making. And if you do want me to make more of these type of tasks, please let me know in the comments below and I'll make some extra videos showing you how to make those specific tasks. So, in my case, I need a quest. So I'm going to come back to my narrative folder in my content drawer, quests. I'll create a new folder called Pantheon Gates, and then inside here I'll create a new narrative quest called BP Pantheon Gate 01. And I'll open this up. So I am actually going to come and untick Show UI, which is a small mod I've done, which literally just stops it from showing in the UI. But will also tick Hidden while we're going through. So, what do we want to do? Well, in my case, I want to go to a specific location, and this is already built in, which makes it super easy to do. So I'll add a go to location, and this is where you'd spawn the overlap if you're just using blueprints. The location, I'm going to come and get by just, I don't know, adding an empty actor here. And when we place it into the real world, I'll have to move it into position. But we'll say about there. I'll copy the location, then I'll come back, I'll paste the location in. The distance, I'll say I've got to get about 500. It doesn't need a location name. I'll just call jump spot, but I am going to come and tick hidden on everything, so we can't actually see it, because it doesn't want to tell the player how to do it. So when we start, we go to the jump spot, and it says it's done. If we've hit the jump spot, we can just complete it. Just that simple, really. And then once we've done that, we can basically hiddenly tell the player to go back and speak to the Pantheon gate. So if I do play dialogue node here, the node I want is this finished one, so I'll copy the ID, paste it back onto here like so, and then I can complete it once they've finished talking to them. And the reason I'm doing it this way instead is when we complete this quest and we save the game, we can, when we reload it, we can actually tell this guy to stay open or stay closed when we load the game, because we've already done the quest which opens it, making it really easy to sync up. Just remembering to come and tick hidden there and there. There we go. So now back on our dialogue, or whenever you've overlapped it, do whatever you need to do. I'm going to add a condition here. This is how the narrative one works at least, where we tell it to only play this if the quest is in progress, and we're going to tick not, so the quest of Pantheon Gate 01 is not in progress. And I'm also going to add an additional one if it's also not succeeded. So this means if you go up and you start the quest, it won't let you recall that one. But if you've also not finished it, it won't let you call that one. But then on the completed one, we're going to pretty much do the same thing, but only on the succeeded one, which says, is it at state? And the state we want on the quest of Pantheon Gate 01 is right here. So we start here, we jump in, we then arrive here waiting for this one to be completed. So the quest state 1 is where it will sit, like so. And then what I'm also going to do, and just to make sure we've not already succeeded it, because if you have, there's no point interacting with it, like so. And then finally, on here, when we actually start it, I'm just going to add an event to start the quest, like so. Begin quest. The one we want to begin is the Pantheon Gate 01. So if you're using narrative, this is super simple for you to do. If you're not using it, then update your quest system to basically do this and go to a location. We walk up now and talk to them, and we can listen to what they want us to do. So if we leave and go, oh, we don't know what to do, we come back. We can't talk to them, but we'll discuss how to repeat that in a moment. So I know I need to jump from this cliff. Whee! Plop. And then I come back and things change, just like the old games. Come and talk to them. There we go. How cool is that looking, ladies and gentlemen? It is looking cool indeed. So, a few things. Firstly, if you did want it to repeat when every time you go up to it, it redoes it, all you have to do is come in and just remove the is quest in progress one there, like that. And just keep the succeeded condition on. And then all we're going to have to do is bring in the is quest at state part condition from the other one, add it into here instead, and then we can simply take not. So if it's not completed the job, well, if it's not completed the job, then just keep saying it, really. So now if we come and talk to him, he'll say it, we run off, we forget, we don't know what it means, we come back later and we're like, okay, let's try this one. Oh, I know what we need to do. We jump down here, plop, we're in the water, we come back over here, and he tells us we're all good. So that's how you can make it repeat, which I do kind of like, actually. I didn't think I did, but I'm going to keep that one. The next thing is we actually need to tell the gates to open now. So once it's done, it needs the gate to play the open animation. So I'm going to come back to the Pantheon Gate here, and we need to basically have a way to call set door open and set door closed from the dialogue here, because that's where we do it, but it'll be good for if we can call it anywhere. So what I'm going to do is come back to my interfaces folder. I'll just add a new interface here. So right click blueprint interface, and I'll call it BPI underscore Pantheon Gate, and inside here I will call it toggle gate, and I'll add a input of open with a type of boolean, and I'll compile and save. Super easy, that one. On Pantheon Gate, class settings, or your door should I say, we will add BPI and then the interface we've just created, so your BPI Demon Door or whatever you want to call it. On the interfaces, I will open toggle gate up, and then we're simply going to add a branch to this, which says if it's true that we should open it, then we will drag in the set door open, otherwise we'll drag in the set door closed like that. Then finally, we just need a way to call this interface, which means we don't need to cast any more to it. So I want to call it after this dialogue here has finished. So for me, I'm going to do it as part of narrative again. I'm just going to create my own custom event, just like the begin quest one, which will simply say toggle Pantheon Gate in my case. So I will come back to my narrative folder in my events, right click, narrative event, any toggle Pantheon gate, and I'll open it up. I'll override the execute event where I will get all actors of class with tag. The class is going to be our Pantheon gate, but the tag I'm going to promote to a variable to say which door we need to open. I will get the first one, and then I will simply say toggle gate. And then whether or not we want to open it, I will promote to a variable like so. Make them both visible, compile and save, and then back on our dialog, we can now simply add this as an event, toggle Pantheon gate, right at the end, or say, I'll give it a unique tag of Pantheon gate 01, and then we want to open it at the end of the dialog. There we go. Finally, I'll just come back to this specific gate, and I'll add a tag of Pantheon gate like that. Like I say, if you do have your own quest system, it should have some sort of event functionality for you to call things, but if it doesn't, then just have some blueprint that basically tells that door to open. So if we try it now, you should see as we walk up to it.
Did you know if you struggle setting up your business, you could seek help with today's sponsor, Lemmy.
If you're feeling overwhelmed by technology, want to grow your business in the digital world, or just need general IT advice, then check out Lemmy. They offer personalised consultations, creative design, and tailored digital solutions to help you thrive. With a free consultation, you have nothing to lose but everything to gain. So let them bring your digital challenges to life. Visit them at lemmyu.com today. But if we do try it, we will see...
The Pantheon gate was set up by the gods for only the worthy to enter. Prove your worth by believing in your god. Sacrifice yourself by jumping from this cliff.
There we go. So now if we come and jump from this cliff like he requests of us, we've jumped. We come back and speak to him. He was...
It's been so long since I left. Access granted.
And now the door should open. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? That is looking really, really cool. The final thing we need to do is actually toggle off the dialogue and just add a new one to teleport us to a new level. That is basically the Fable's Demon Door. An easy quest, cool animation, and that is going to remain open from now on. It just looks so cool at the side of the rock face, I really must say. But yes, so let's make it so when we interact with it after it's finished, it just settles into the right place. So what I'm going to do is back to my Pantheon gate. So where we call set door open or set door closed, they both call the guard anim here. But what we can do is, if we just drag these down a little bit, is when the animation is completed, that they've opened successfully, then we can trigger the interaction. So the first thing I'm going to do, for mine at least, is just disable the dialogue interaction. So I'll call deactivate. However you've got your dialogue set up, just basically prevent them from doing it. And then the next one is to actually make it so it can open a level instead. Now I don't think I've got an interact to open levels yet. No, I haven't got an interact to change levels, so because I'm using narrative interact, I'm just going to create a super simple component where I will call it narrative. I will set it to a narrative interactable, and I'll call it interactable _ change level. I'll open it up. When you interact with it, so on interact, the first thing I want to do is just lock the player out, so I'll get the controller, and I'll also get their pawn, so get player pawn, and then I will just drag up and do disable input. And I'll do the same on both by dragging them both in. I'll apply the player controller that I'm disabling input on. So now the player can't do anything. I will then start a camera fade, like so, where we connect the player camera manager. Then I want to fade it from 0 to 1 with a duration of 1 because that's it fading out. It should fade the audio and hold when finished. And then finally we'll just call open level by object reference. Promote the level to a variable, and then make it visible, and then that's pretty much it. When we come back into the world, that should all be undone, I believe. So let's just change the class defaults to say, we'll just call it Pantheon Gate and enter for now, just like that. So if I come back to this Pantheon Gate here, we will add the new interactive change level, and for this specific one, let's just make it go back to the same one for now. And then by default, I will untick auto activate so that component is deactivated, and I will come in and activate it at this point, like so. However, I have just noticed that at the moment we're going to always deactivate it when we complete it, but if we're closing, we don't want that. So instead of running it on completed, I'm actually going to come and put it down here, next to the notifiers here, because it doesn't really matter if it runs straight away, because the interaction is disabled while it's opening anyway, so that's fine. So when we're opening the door, we can deactivate the dialogue and then we can open the change level one. But if we're doing it the other way, then I'll flip these around and we will deactivate the change level and we will activate the begin dialogue, like so. So we basically just toggle each one. So let's try it now. So this is the final demon door for a task-based one. So there, he's told us to jump, we'll jump, plop, all done, we'll run back round, he laughs at us, and then it should open. There we go. Isn't that looking cool? And now we go to it, it tells us to enter it, and it just respawns us in the same level. There you go. It's respawned it locked because I haven't saved or loaded. That's something I'll do extra outside of this. So, for the next one, how do we set up the dialogue/riddle-based one where you have to answer correctly? So this is going to be pretty similar. So let me just take all of this stuff here, and this will give us a good test to actually make sure it's generic. And we'll stick this over this side, like that. And then let's come and update this one now. So I want to keep the same guards, but you can of course change the animations or do whatever you want. I will set the tag to Pantheon Gate 02 so it doesn't open both by accident. And then the dialogue down here that we want, this is where we're going to do most of the work. So I'm going to duplicate this one and call it Pantheon Gate 02, and I'll open it up. And this is another dialogue heavy one that you need to have a dialogue system for if you don't already have one, but I'm pretty sure most games would have one. I'll delete these off and just keep it Pantheon Gate because that's just what we need. The first one we will ask the player is, do you want the 3 questions? Like so. Then I will assign the audio. So, question. After this, I will give the player an option to either leave or accept it, because I think that would be pretty cool. You don't always want every single door to give it you straight away. But of course, if you do want it to give it you straight away, then just don't do these. But for the player options, I'm just going to put the words continue, like that, so you listen to them. Or I'll just put another one saying exit. If we're exiting, it'll do nothing. That's completely fine. If we're continuing, this is where we get the player to ask to listen to the questions. So the first one is my lore-friendly question. The elven beings here have been here since the old times. What other beings have been here as long as these? And now I can build up my dialogue pretty much and adding the options for the player to select. So I'll add in an answer, I will add in another answer, and then I'll add in the final answer. And now depending on how you want it to work, if you pick the incorrect answer, you may want it to laugh and say, haha, you failed, and then you have to redo it. However, I want mine where you have to get through it all, and then it tells you whether you failed or not. So you have multiple layers to know whether or not you've done it right. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to add a variable here called correct answers, and I'll set it to a type of integer. Then I'm going to double click on the correct answer in narrative, or if you select on yours, just store, basically increment the integer that you've done it right. So for me it's the Twisted Coalition, and I will drag this and just do increment. You could also do decrement if you really want to and take it into negatives, but it's perfectly fine just to keep it as 1. And then no matter what they answer, I will make the Pantheon Gate talk again, where they will ask the second question. And then again, I will do the player replies. I'm just going to speed run through doing this bit, just because I've just showed you how to do it. So that is mine successfully done now. I've built up all the questions. So question 1, 2, 3. The only other thing I'm going to do is lock the player for this one, because the player really should be locked, but it doesn't need to do a camera shot, so that's completely okay. And I'll go to class defaults, and I'll just make sure I set this speaker ID to be Pantheon Gate 02 specifically, and set the speaker name to be Pantheon Gate. And then back on our Pantheon Gate for this specific door, I can add a specific tag for both, so Pantheon Gate 02. So it's already got the Pantheon Gate tag, that's all good. Now the only key part we need to do is actually determine at the bottom which one we need to go to. How do we know if we've got enough correct answers? So it's going to be creating our own custom condition that will return the correct answers. So what I'm going to do is come down and create a new interface, right-click Blueprint Interface, and I'll call it BPI Quiz Dialogue. And this does kind of lead more towards narrative depending on how your game works for your dialogue system. But I'm just going to do get correct answers, and it'll return an integer. And I'll hit compile and save. Back on our dialog, I'll add this interface, quiz dialog, and I'll implement this get correct answers, which will simply do that. Then if we come and create our own condition in narrative, so right click narrative condition, and we'll call it nc underscore get correct is correct answers, and we'll open it up. I will override the check condition, and all we have to do is return a boolean if we've passed it or not. So I'm going to drag off the narrative component and do get current dialog, because that's what this one's for. Then from here I will do get correct answers, which will use our interface. And then if our correct answers equals, and then we'll promote this to a variable saying correct answer amount, then we can return true or false, like so. Super simple. I'll add a name to it just to make it look nicer. Is correct answer amount. And then finally, if we add this, our dialog down here, if this one has a condition of is correct answers amount, the correct answers amount is 3. If it's not, then we will fail them. If it is, then we will successfully pass them. And then finally, we can add the event on, which allows them to successfully move to the new gate. So I'll open it up here, like so. Toggle Pantheon gate 02. And that should be it, ladies and gentlemen. So if we come back to our gate here, if we go to the begin dialog and set the new dialog here, so Pantheon gate 2, let's give it a try. You'll see when we walk up, he should speak to us.
The Pantheon gate door.
So we could just choose exit, and then they'll let us walk around and do everything. If we come back and click continue, you should see. So if I just click a incorrect one, so we'll say, well, the gods, they've been here for years.
Kickstarting the life here.
So what one? Let's do the Galactic Alliance.
How long did the War of the Gods last?
And then we can say we will do it never ended, and then we will see.
You are not worthy.
We got it wrong.
Return to later time.
Okay, so just before we jump in to try and listen to the successful one, I think it'll be much better if the player's replies are all, instant. It never really does anything. So I'm just going to come and set it to after X seconds for every single one. If you were doing a lot more player nodes, I would just override the get line duration function and check if it's a player node. For me, it's not too bad. So I think it looks much better if we click it and it instantly goes into it. One final bug I've just found. These are running multiple times, so we just need to add a quick branch into here to say only if it's at the start of the player node, then it should increment it. Before, it was incrementing it at the start and the end, meaning it equaled 6, so it never successfully passed because it just kept failing. So if we just connect all these up like so, your dialog system may not have this problem. It very well may do, who knows. But if we try it this time, you will see, continue, it was the Twisted Coalition. It was the Galactic Alliance, and it never ended.
You are one with knowledge. The door is yours, you are.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. We have successfully done multiple doors. And now we can jump back over here, and we can start this one, where he tells us to jump over there. So if we jump over the cliff, just like that door over there, this one should now open up for us. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Fable Demon Doors. What do you think? How cool is that? It already is super generic, and I will absolutely customize my game with it. You can also change the meshes. Let's do that. So if we click on this door over here, so let's say pick this one with the hat. Maybe it's a named guard. There we go. And the color space has worked and made him completely colored out. But he looks like a giant guard. Looks less intimidating than the ones with the full face masks, I will say. But we can also have one with giant swords. Boom. There we go. So 2 different guards. It's super generic. It looks really cool. You can add all sorts of extra stuff to it. So you can even add some camera shape maybe when it's opening so it wobbles the screen or something. That'd look cool. There's so much you can do to it to make it look really cool. Different sounds and everything. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. There is the Fable Demon Doors, the Ark Voodoo landing zones or stuff like that. I'm going to go and add this into my main map now. And then we will be good. So you'll see, as I now walk over to here, we can see the Pantheon Gate here, just stood looking menacingly. We can see the big cliff that we need to jump off. So if we come in and talk to it.
The Pantheon Gate was settled by the gods for only the worthy to enter. Prove your worth by believing in your god. Sacrifice yourself by jumping from this cliff.
So we've got a cliff. If we run and jump, and we can ragdoll as well, just to really, get in there nicely. Ignore this part, because obviously I haven't put swimming into it yet. So we've just jumped in, we sacrificed ourselves for the gods. Let's run back up and talk to the door again. And then while we're here, we can talk to them and say,
Ha ha! It's been so long since I left. Access granted, young one.
the doors will open. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? I can now enter the door. There we go. What do you think? How cool is that? There is our Pantheon doors in my game, otherwise known as these Fable Demon Doors, or the Arc Voodoo Destroy Humans landing sites. Either way, it is really cool. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me, what type of tasks would you do if you created these type of things in your game? And if you want to see more, please let me know what type of tasks or dialogue or anything I should create. Should we start making it spawn enemies in, or making you do something evil? Anything we need. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this was helpful. The animations are all linked in the description. If you've got any issues, please let me know. My name is Cryption, and I will see you next time.